The Brazen Bull, Golden Karma. Picture ancient Sicily, a tyrant named Phalaris and an inventor named Paralaus who just created the most sadistic execution device in history. A hollow bronze bull, polished to perfection. Victims were locked inside, and a fire was lit underneath. But here's the twisted genius. The bull had special pipes that turned the victim's screams into the sound of a bull roaring. This wasn't quick. Victims literally cooked alive, while their tormentors listened to what sounded like animal noises. But here's where karma strikes hard. Phalaris wanted to test his creation, so he made Paralaus, the inventor himself, the very first victim. The man who designed this horror became its first casualty. Golden karma at its finest. The screams that echoed from that bronze bull were those of the man who engineered the entire nightmare. Later, Phalaris himself was eventually executed in his own creation. What goes around comes around. Literally roasted. Deacon and Martyr of fiery defiance, St. Lawrence. Rome, 258 AD. Lawrence was a Christian deacon who controlled the church's treasury. When Emperor Valerian demanded the church's riches, Lawrence gathered the poor, sick, and disabled of Rome and presented them as the true treasures of the church. Bold move, fatal move. His punishment? Roasted alive on a giant gridiron over hot coals. But here's what makes this death legendary and controversial. According to historical accounts, Lawrence actually taunted his executioners mid-roasting. "Turn me over, I'm done on this side," he allegedly said. Some historians debate if this really happened or if it's Christian propaganda. Either way, the man died refusing to break, becoming a martyr whose defiance still echoes through history. He's now the patron saint of cooks and comedians. The irony is almost unbearable. The Trampling of Al-Musta'sim. Baghdad, 1258. The last Abbasid Caliph Al-Musta'sim ruled one of the greatest cities on earth. Then the Mongols arrived. Hulagu Khan offered terms. Al-Musta'sim refused, believing his city was invincible. He was catastrophically wrong. When Baghdad fell, the Mongols had a problem. They believed spilling royal blood on the ground would anger the earth, so they got creative with their brutality. Al-Musta'sim was wrapped in carpets and trampled to death by horses. His entire body was crushed, but technically, no blood touched the ground. Between 200,000 to 1 million people died in the siege. The Tigris River allegedly ran black with ink from destroyed books, then red with blood. One of history's greatest libraries, the House of Wisdom, was destroyed. Al-Musta'sim's decision to resist didn't just cost him his life, it ended the Islamic Golden Age. The hanging of Jacques de Molay, Friday, October 13th, 1307. King Philip IV of France arrested every Knight Templar in the country simultaneously. Why? The Templars were rich, powerful, and Philip was broke. He needed their money. So he accused them of heresy, worshipping demons, and all sorts of made-up crimes. Jacques de Molay, the Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was tortured for 7 years. He confessed under torture, then recanted. Big mistake. In 1314, he was burned at the stake in Paris on an island in the Seine. But before he died, de Molay allegedly shouted a curse. God knows who is wrong and has sinned. Soon a calamity will occur to those who have condemned us to death. Within a month, Pope Clement V was dead. Within a year, King Philip IV was dead. Philip's entire bloodline was destroyed within 14 years. Coincidence? The curse of the Templars is still debated today, and Friday the 13th became unlucky because of this mass arrest. The Impaling of Peter Niers, Germany, 1581. Peter Niers wasn't just a serial killer, he was a legend of horror, accused of murdering 544 people, practicing black magic, and eating children. Whether all of this was true or medieval hysteria is debatable, but what happened to him is documented fact. He was impaled alive on a wooden stake, but not the quick way. The stake was inserted through his body vertically, avoiding vital organs, so he'd die as slowly as possible. It took him 3 days to die. But that wasn't enough for the executioners. While he was still alive, they flayed parts of his skin, broke his limbs with the breaking wheel, and drew and quartered him, all while he was still conscious on that stake. His execution was designed to match the horror of his alleged crimes. They wanted him to suffer for days, and they succeeded. Some historians argue his confessions were obtained through torture and he might have been a scapegoat for unsolved murders. But the brutality of his execution, that's undisputed. The drowning of Frederick Barbarossa. Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa was a legend, Redbeard in Italian. He was leading the Third Crusade in 1190, one of the most powerful men in the world. Armies trembled at his name, and then he drowned in a river. Not just any river, the Salef River in modern-day Turkey, barely waist-deep. Some accounts say he was trying to cool off in his heavy armor. Others say his horse stumbled. The mighty emperor, who survived countless battles, conquered kingdoms, and struck fear across Europe, drowned in a shallow river like a common soldier. His death threw the entire crusade into chaos. Most of his army turned back. Some tried to preserve his body in vinegar to bring him home, but it decomposed anyway. They buried his bones in Antioch. The Erfurt Latrine disaster. July 26, 1184. King Henry VI of Germany gathered dozens of nobles in the Church of St. Peter in Erfurt for a royal meeting. 60 of the most powerful men in the kingdom assembled in a second-floor hall. They were discussing important matters of state when suddenly the floor collapsed. But they didn't fall into a normal basement. They fell into the building's cesspit, a medieval sewage chamber filled with human waste. Dozens of nobles drowned in literal excrement. Some tried to swim, but their heavy clothing dragged them down into the filth. Others were crushed by falling debris. King Henry himself almost died, but grabbed onto a metal bar and was pulled to safety. At least 60 noblemen died that day, suffocated and drowned in a pool of human waste. The most powerful men in Germany, dressed in their finest clothes, meeting about the kingdom's future, and they died drowning in a toilet. Historians still debate the exact death toll, but one thing's certain: this is the most undignified mass death in medieval history. Imagine surviving wars and political intrigue, only to die like this.
The death of Vlad the Impaler. Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler and Vlad Dracula, inspired Bram Stoker's vampire legend. He earned his nickname by impaling thousands. Some estimates say up to 80,000 people. He'd leave forests of impaled bodies as warnings to enemies. His cruelty was legendary. So when he died in 1476, there's a dark justice to it. The exact circumstances are debated, but most accounts agree he was ambushed and killed by his own allies, or possibly assassinated by boyars, nobles he terrorized. Some sources say he was beheaded and his head sent to the Ottoman Sultan as proof of death. His body, allegedly buried at Snagov Monastery in Romania. But here's the controversy. When archaeologists excavated the supposed grave in the 1930s, they found animal bones. No Vlad. Where is he actually buried? Nobody knows. The man who left thousands of bodies on display has a missing corpse. Some believe his monks secretly moved him. Others think he was never there at all. Being hanged, drawn, and quartered. England reserved this for traitors, but the definition of treason was flexible. Speak against the king? Traitor. Wrong religion? Traitor. First, you're hanged by the neck, but not until death. Cut down while still conscious. Then your intestines and organs are pulled out while you watch. Then your body is chopped into 4 pieces. The final insult? Your pieces are displayed across the kingdom as warnings. William Wallace endured this in 1305. His head was displayed on London Bridge for years. Executioners were skilled at keeping victims conscious as long as possible. That was the entire point. This wasn't just execution, it was theater. A public demonstration of what happens when you defy the crown. The controversy? This was legal punishment until 1870 in England, less than 200 years ago. The breaking wheel. This was entertainment in medieval Europe. Families brought picnics to watch. The victim is tied to a large wooden wheel. An executioner breaks every major bone with an iron bar. Limbs first, working methodically. Then the broken body is woven through the wheel spokes like a grotesque basket. The wheel is mounted on a pole for public display, and the victim is left to die from exposure and trauma, sometimes taking days. In some regions, executioners would show mercy with a quick death blow to the heart or neck, but this was rare and considered a privilege you had to pay for. Your family had to bribe the executioner for a faster death. Otherwise, you'd hang there, broken, waiting for exposure, dehydration, or birds to finish you off.